Okay, this is a new project. I got a MX650 upgrade kit from MonsterScooterParts.com. It's 1800 watt brushless motor, um, and it's designed for 48 volts. And here's the speed controller. I already put it sort of where I want it. So the first thing I'm doing is putting the back sprocket on. It's a much bigger sprocket, which means that motor must spin at a crazy number of RPMs to put this is actually slow down the speed, so it must need to be slowed down quite a bit to keep the power up. Okay, no real rocket science with that. You just put it on. This one doesn't have a guard around it, which I'm not sure if I like really, but I guess it probably doesn't matter at the end of the day. Okay, here's the motor that comes with it. It's a brushless motor. Supposed to be, I think it says on here, 48 volts, 1800 watts, 48 or 4400 rounds per minute, 4400 RPM. It's supposed to bolt right into this spot, so with no modifications to the frame. Okay, I got the old motor out. Here's just make sure when you put these back in, it had blue Loctite on it. Just make sure you put some more on it before you put them in. And here's a new motor ready to put in. Okay, the first issue, it's not going to be a huge issue, but you can see these two bolts on the old motor here, and there's this bar on the motor mount that goes in between them, so that bar would be right here, and then you have the wires coming out to the side. Well, here you have the two bolts, and then you have the wires coming out right here. Well, that's right where that bar is going to be. So that bar right here, and I have to cut that bar, and so I'll do that. I have that cut out now. I just cut out a piece of it, just enough to allow that cord, and I don't want that to rust up, so I'm going to hit it with a little bit of paint. That's it. Real issue here. I've got these things stick out, but this flush mounts. So this bar here is pretty wide, as you can tell, and so that bar basically mounts. That bar mounts along here. Well, this doesn't clear that when it mounts, so this has got to go. So I think thinking about just taking it out. I'm going to see if I have something that will a screw that will flush mount. Otherwise, I might just take it out. Okay, I started taking this little screw out here, and it goes all the way through, and it's a really long one. It goes all the way through the motor, so you definitely don't want to take that out. You got to figure something out to allow that to mount in here, but it just won't. I might have to cut a notch out of the frame. Here you can get a better view of the issue. I mean, these the real problem is it makes the motor kind of cockeyed, and it won't line up with the holes. This motor mount won't line up because this makes it not quite fit right. Plus, we're going to have these bolts where if I did tighten it down, they're not going to be all the way in. So pretty disappointed about that. This is supposed to be a plug and play motor. Also, this cord comes out to the side. Or it comes out the end. I would have hoped that would come out to the side. I don't want it really hanging out there either. So not very far along in this kit. Not too happy with that. Okay, I'm having a real hard time getting this to fit. so I'm just going to cut it out. So I marked off in blue tape where I need to cut, and I'm going to cut a hole for that screw to fit in, so it'll fit flush in here. Okay, I tried a couple different techniques, but ended up just drilling a hole precisely where that bolt needs to fit in. Okay, by cutting that hole, I'm able to get the head of that screw to fit in there. Get this to fit flush. All three the screws fit in. I'm going to take it all apart, hit it with some paint where I had to drill, and then make sure I put Loctite on it when I'm putting the screws in. It should be good. Just a quick shot of what this looks like now before I put it back together. That's what you have to do to modify it. That's what it's like in. Nice and flush. Okay, I got to replace the chain. Yeah, I got this chain is looped in here, so you got to get that out of there. And that's but if you look, this new chain is quite a bit bigger than the old chain, which is good news because this is a lot more powerful. Getting that chain out is pretty easy. You just have to unbolt this and then separate it out and separate everything and take the chain out. Okay, now I got the back wheel on, ready to put the chain on, and I put this in here, ready to wrap it through there. Okay, a couple things here. I bent this in a little just to get it to line up. You want everything aligned straight. Make sure the chain is traveling straight. There's no guard on this, so yeah, you want to make sure that everything's straight. There's nothing to keep that on. The other thing is this chain is a little bit too long, so I'm gonna have to take out some links. Okay, I just had to take one link out, or I guess that's one link, and then that spread that out quite a bit. So looks pretty good now. I'm ready to put the handle on. Now there's several different options for what handle you use. I chose this one just because I like the lock concept, because I have kids around. I don't want kids hopping on this with this amount of power. And then the good thing about that is this functions as an on-off switch, so you don't need the switch that's on the case. I'll talk about that later, because I'm going to reuse that for something else. And this is pretty simple, just slip it on and tighten it up. And then I tighten the brake. I'm using a different brake because I have a different setup here, completely different setup. But wait to tighten the brake up until you get the throttle all the way on. Okay, this controller sits in this top tray. This is where I'm putting it. Now, I'm doing a lithium battery that sits in this bottom tray, so I'm going to put this controller in the top tray, and it sits in here just fine. I may end up having to pull this down, but I'll probably just zip tie it in here. I think it'll be fine. Has battery leads that all hook up. It actually has a wiring harness too that goes with that. I'll hook up that in a second. The motor, this cable that comes from the motor, I ran this through. There are a couple things that come off of it. One is these 3 leads that all hook up through this, hook up to that, and these come from the controller. So these 3 will hook up to these 3 using this box, and then this I already plugged this motor in. Everything's labeled really nicely, and then I have the cable from the throttle up here has 2 things. One, there's actually an on-off switch, which I talked about, and there's the throttle, so that has 2 functions, which is nice. So you have that connects to the on-off switch there, and it connects to the throttle. Okay, and then and that's pretty much it for this controller. This has a brake, two brake plugs. I don't like the fact when you pull the brake, it stops the motor. If you really ride dirt bikes, there's situations where you want the throttle and the brake at the same time, especially like when you're cornering in dirt. So I don't like that. And then, so I don't connect that. This is the indicator. I don't connect that. This is a limiter. Of course, I don't connect that. And what's this? A charger. I don't connect that through here. I'll build a separate harness for that because I have my own lithium battery that I charge a different way. And so that's pretty much it. I'll connect basically power, this is a brushless motor, so it has the three leads, and then the other, I think these are for sensors on the motor, also connected to the motor, and then what's connected to the throttle, which is the power, and that's it. Should be pretty straightforward. Okay, I've got that box connected, which is really easy to connect those wires, and then this is that harness that connects to the power, and then it comes with a bunch of leads to connect to lead acid batteries, but I'm not using that, so I'll cut these off. It has a nice 40 amp fuse here, and so basically I can pretty much connect this directly to the battery, and then we're off and running. Okay, I got everything hooked up and zip tied. I tested it out. The wheels spin, lights turn here. Lights come on. Got a little bit more to hook up. I got to hook up the battery, and I also have to hook up the wiring to the voltmeter, and it should be done. Put everything back together, it should be done. This is a 48 volt 20 amp hour battery, pretty badass battery. Several of these chargers, this one's a 48 volt, this one's 36 volt. I have a couple of those. They look exactly the same, the plugs are the same, except so you really don't, but you don't want to mix them up. You don't want to plug the wrong one in. So I took some plastic paint and just color coded these green, the 48 volt ones. So at least it gave me a little warning that if I'm plugging it into the wrong one. I'm going to do a little test drive here on everything set up. Reason I wanted to test drive, I actually did one earlier. So I wanted to see, I haven't bought handlebars yet because I don't want, I'm not sure how high I want them, but I test drove it. I think these are too high with this being higher shocks. So I think I'm going to get some lower ones, but we'll see what my son Joshua thinks. And I have just everything taped up and everything. This has the 1800 watt kit on it as well. The other thing, the 1800 watt kit, it comes with a much bigger back sprocket, which will give it more torque. To me, it's a little too torquey. I think the kit should come with a smaller back sprocket, get a little higher speed. But we'll see what my son Joshua thinks. All right, Joshua, hit it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a lot faster.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's too torquey, huh? Yeah, see, hit it. It's like the wheel wants to come off the ground. Yeah. What do you think?
has a lot of kick to it.
Yeah, I think it's a little too torquey. Now, what about the handlebars? I think lower and spread out more. Don't you think? So you're leaning forward a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're too high.
I think I'll get some lower ones. Lower ones and wider. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay. Show me how it kicks when you had it. Just barely tap the accelerator. Yeah, it's a little too torquey, I think. I think it should have a smaller back sprocket. Okay, I needed to lower the bars and widen them out just to make it, for one, you lean forward so much because it kicks, that motor has a lot of kick. So lowered it down. I also put this placard on and just zip tied it to the top and bottom, drilled some holes, zip tied it to the top and bottom, and holds pretty well. Of course, put the logo of my beer league hockey team on, which is White Lightning, and it looks pretty good, and it feels pretty good. Much better when you're leaning more forward and your arms are wider. This is this spot. This hole right here is where the switch normally goes. I actually took it. I stole it for another bike, but this plug almost fits in there. And since this has a power switch on it, I don't need this power switch over here. I'm just going to widen that hole just a little bit and pop this in here, and that'll be the spot for the plug. Okay, I'm going to screw these in. I'm going to put some red thread locker on this because I don't want these to ever come undone. But yeah, it fits right in there. There it is, all done.
See if you can roll. See if you can roll down the hill. Keep going. Nice. Good job. It's an impressive roll. So you girls up to obviously going to dance and then you had school. How was that? No, no.
Here it is finished, except I have to put a fender on, but I'm not sure when I'm going to do that. Upgraded handlebars, upgraded 1 1/8 inch front end, mountain bike front end, forks, new rim, new disc brakes, 1800 watt motor, lithium, 48 volt lithium battery. Should be pretty fun to ride. A few minutes into the first real ride, the master link came out of the chain, so could have been not installed properly, or maybe that's just a weak point in the design. I'm going to order a new master link, and then should try again in a few days. I had ordered a new master link. I replaced it. I replaced the master link. But in the meantime, while I was waiting for those to arrive, I realized I could just put the old sprocket on and the old chain, and change the front sprocket and change the back sprocket, even though that's a much weaker chain. It appears to be holding up okay. Now, when I got the new master links and put those on, I could never really get that chain to stay properly. It'd ride for a couple minutes and then pop off. I think it really needs a chain guard on that back sprocket to guide it. In the meantime, I'm not recommending this because it might be a safety issue, but I don't have a problem with the old chain. I've ridden it pretty hard a few times with the old chain on, and no issues with it. So I'm gonna keep riding it like this, and I think they should probably change the kit to. They're gonna upgrade that chain, put a chain guard on that back sprocket so it helps it to hold on, because it keeps popping off for me. But you know, the torquiness of the motor, that's sort of gone. It is an issue when you're on flat ground. Obviously I have this a little higher too, so that probably contributes to the issue. But it's when you're in dirt, you're actually riding and moving, that torque is actually pretty nice. So I'm not sure. I think the torquiness of it, I'd probably just leave it alone. It's nice to have that power. This thing charges up hills, no problem, steep hills. It's nice to have that power. When you're in dirt going around a track, it's better to have the power than the top speed.